Aloha. Aloha. It's such a beautiful day, and I'm so blessed to be here, share it with my ohana, my friends and my family, and people I care about, and the people that care about the planet. Because it's up to us. There's plenty of people that like get some money and just think about themselves and think about their kids. And we need more people to think about all the kids and all the aunties and uncles and all the grandmas and grandpas. And we are a community. Whether you're born here or you're imported here or you're just find yourself here and you don't even know how you got here, you're still a part of the Aina, and you back to the Aina. That is a power that you have. It's a power that we all have, and I implore you, please, please, give to the Aina, give to the lands, because the bountiful reward from that, it's just unbound. We have a wonderful, wonderful presenter for our next presentation. He's my very good friend. I've known him well over a year, and he does a lot with the youth to give them some direction in the Guard, and he really cares about the lands and the people of Hawaii. So let me give you Paulo.
Hello, my kako. Mahalo, yeah. My name is Paulo Faleafine. I'm the Executive Director of the Royal Hawaiian Guard. We primarily operate out of Waiola Church, where the Waine'i Royal Mausoleum is. Anthony has given me some time today, very graciously, to speak about a bit of Lahaina's history and allowed me to share the history of the Mo'i Wahine Keopuolani. So that's what I intend to do with you today. And I know I have about 20 minutes, Anthony? Okay. So to get into this, our Mo'i Wahine Keopuolani, her story, she was born in 1778 out in the Wailuku, Waihe'e area. And when she was born, she was of the highest blood level of purity. So she was born at the level that we call Niaupi'o. And that basically means a connecting rainbow. Her mother and father were both half brother, half sister, and her grandmother was both of their moms. So out of the blood quantums, it was of the purest quality when it comes to the genealogy. Her ranking came from the Pi'ilani line, where this whole area that we know as Lahaina today, which was called Lele, was inhabited by the Pi'ilani line of chiefs. In fact, this ballpark behind us all here, called Malu'ulu Olele Park, was a sacred grove of breadfruit trees. And so that was established by about the 7th Pi'ilani chief that inhabited this place. So Keopuolani, when she was born, she was a combination of all her ancestors, and she came forward to being basically a walking goddess at her period of time. And her line stems back to the deity that we called Kihavahine, or related to the Mo'o, or lizard god, or the Mo'o Amakua. This area behind us, Moku'ula, was considered the dwelling place of Kihavahine at its time. And it's something that the Friends of Moku'ula is looking to restore, and that should be happening in 2012. So for Keopuolani, we'll go back to her story. Born in 1778, raised by her grandmother Kolola out on the lands of Olowalu. That was her grandmother's lands. That area was known as more of a place of refuge and a place of safety for Hawaiians then. And what happened was Kamehameha the Great started to come and to rise into power. And on his journey here, he knew of Keopuolani's birth, and he had basically two ambitions when he came here to Maui. Number one was to capture the kingdom of Maui, at that time from Chief or King Kahekili, and the other one was to capture Keopuolani, so that way he can help to secure his reign and his dynasty. So it occurred in 1790. Kamehameha comes forward with his units. It comes up through Hana and invades Maui. And at that point, the Maui forces were tricked into thinking that Kamehameha was going to arrive on the Kihei side of the islands. But in fact, he came from the Hana end. And when they arrived, the Maui forces were forced to come back and fall into Iao Valley to form a defensive line. And the people that they were protecting was Kalani Kupule, which is Kaikili's son, and Keopuolani at that time. And so Kamehameha, at this point, in Maui's history, they always had the ability to create a defensive line at Iao Valley. They can just cover it man to man with their long spears, and it would be basically an impenetrable force. But now Kamehameha had the use of cannon, which rendered that as obsolete. And he devastated the Maui forces. And so Kalani Kupule took his sister, Keopuolani, and they fled through Iao, going out to the Ukumehame Pass. And along the way, the warriors fought to the last man to hold Kamehameha back so that their beloved chief and their mo'i could escape. And so that's what occurred. So as you go through Iao Valley today, you'll find rocks stacked against the mountain. Those are some of the fallen warriors that were covering the retreat on the way out. So Keopuolani escapes through Ukumehame. Kalani Kupule goes to Oahu, and Keopuolani goes to the island of Molokai to be with her grandmother. And at that point, Kamehameha decides to pursue after her. And he goes to the island of Molokai and tells Kalola that I want to take what he called his daughter, because he shared Keopuolani's mother with their father, and his sister, because he was hanai by the Hawaii Island king. And basically, many have said that Kamehameha was the son of Chief Kahikili. And so he said, I want to take my daughter and my sister so they can live on the Big Island or Hawaii Island and rule, and they can remain there. Kalola didn't agree at that point, and so they waited for her passing. And what happens then is, after Kalola passes away, Keopuolani is taken at that point by Kamehameha onto Hawaii Island. And from there, she remains for about 10 or so years. And at that point, she gets this name called Wahine Pio, or captured woman. And one of our British sailors makes note in his journal when he was on Hawaii Island, saying that when he saw a hula performed in front of him, that they mentioned her name, and as soon as they did, the women would remove their clothing and fall prostrate to their face. And that's something we have to understand, is the ranking of her at her time period. She had 5 kapu, or taboos, associated with her. Her primary taboo was that of the kapu moi, or the prostrating kapu. When she would make her presence in front of you, it was in such that you needed to fall prostrate to your face. You couldn't touch her shadow. And if you failed to do both, then you would be put out by her soldiers that guarded her. She had other kapu, at the kapuahi, where they would burn a torch for her midday, as that was her right coming from the Oahu lines, or the Kauai lines. And then she had another kapu where if you disobeyed her, she had the right to put you to death by burning in pili grass, as was from her genealogy from Oahu. And she had others where she didn't need to prostrate to anyone. So she was of that such high ranking that she was respected everywhere she went. And she was always known as a gentle and loving ali'i of her time, where she would only travel during high noon so her shadow wouldn't touch anyone, or she would only travel during the evening so that way her people would not need to be subjected to the harsh punishments that came with her ranking. So while she's on the island of Hawaii, it says that she had 11 children, which only 3 survived. And those 3 children she had with Kamehameha Nui was Liholiho, Kauikeaouli, and Nahiena, which became the 2 future kings and the crown princess. Kamehameha II, or Liholiho, was adopted then by Queen Ka'ahumanu, and Kauikeaouli was adopted by another chief, and Keopuolani decided to keep her daughter, Princess Nahiena, with her. And so we go forward into history. Kamehameha decides, now it's 17, or now we're getting into the early 1800s, Kamehameha decides to move forward to conquer Oahu. being now that Kahikili has passed away and his son Kalani Kupule has been weakened from wars on Oahu with the passing of his father. His uncles wanted control. So Kalani Kupule was victorious, but Kamehameha saw that he was weak. So he took his forces to Oahu to finish his conquest of the kingdom, invaded and fought at the Battle of Nu'uanu, and it's there said by different historians that Keopuolani need only make herself visible and it would end wars because people would have to fall prostrate to her. And so thinking about that, Kamehameha would have had that power, or he was a master strategist, so thinking of Kamehameha, he would have been able to utilize her at different points so he could move his forces around so to win the day, and that's exactly what he did. And he was victorious at Nu'uanu, captured Oahu, and then set his eyes onto the island of Kauai. First, he tried invading the island of Kauai with his forces, but they got ravished in a sea storm. He tried to mount another force, but they got ravished by disease. So he had to send his most favorite wife, Queen Ka'ahumanu, forward, and she convinced King Kamuali'i, who was also at the Waine'e Royal Mausoleum. He was the last king of the island of Kauai. She convinced him to capitulate over to Kamehameha, and thus in 1810, the Hawaiian Islands were united under one rule. Now we move forward here, and in 1819, Kamehameha I passes away. At this point, the kingdom was in a bit of a turmoil. Many of the major imperialist powers out there were eyeballing the kingdom of Hawaii primarily for its trading area, for its seaports, so that they can restore the militaries. And people were expecting the kingdom to fail. However, Ka'ahumanu came forward, and she basically told Liholiho and all the chiefs there, she tells Liholiho, here's your men, here's your lands, here's your weapons, but you and I shall both rule. And at that point appointed herself the Kuhina Nui, or the co-regent of the kingdom, and that helped to tremendously stabilize the kingdom with the politics of the day. And also she pushed forward into saying, no longer will our men and women eat separately or cook separately, we'll live together. And at that point pushed forward for the notion of ainoa, or to eat freely. But her son, or Hanai's son, Liholiho, at that point made no gesture, basically saying, we're not doing it. It was Keopuolani standing next to him. She gestured to Liholiho to say, ainoa, let's eat freely. However, he still did not gesture to move forward. And keep in mind that a lot of the Hawaiian thought then, as a lot of it is now, is all about mana, spiritual power. And with Keopuolani's ranking, she spoke for the gods. So when she came forward to say ainoa, she's saying we're ending these old ways. But at that point, they had a rival force with the keeper of Kukailimoku, or the god of obedience and military. So what they needed to do to end the kapu system and enact ainoa, Keopuolani the next day, and this is where she steps out into history, she boards a canoe personally and goes to the keeper of Kukailimoku. And she speaks to him and says, 3 times ask him to come with us by sea, so that way we can settle this issue and ainoa will be enacted. He refused. And so she said, by this you cut the naval cord, and he went by land to gather a force to fight against the Kamehamehas. And this was the rebellion of the kingdom at the time. And the Kamehameha forces prevailed, and what happens from that point is ainoa is enacted, it's reigned throughout the kingdom, and the tapu, or the kapu or taboo system is now gone. Heiaus come tumbling down, or temples of worship come tumbling down. Men and women are free to be together. And now Hawaii needs something new to move forward. And that something new comes 4 months later on a ship called the Thaddeus, and with the arrival of the missionaries. Keopuolani, she has the foresight to see what the missionaries have to offer. And she goes to her son Liholiho and implores him to move forward with what these missionaries can do, because she saw the value of education for her people. And Liholiho pays no mind to it. So moving forward, Keopuolani fades a bit from history. Then we get closer to her time of passing into 1823. She becomes more sick, and she's presiding in Honolulu at the time. And she says, okay, I'm going to come back to Maui, to these lands which you're standing on today, and say, I'm going to finish my life here. So she came back home to where her ancestors were. And what happens then is we get into September. Early September, she starts falling ill. The word goes out that Keopuolani is really ill. So what happens at that point, thousands start coming to Lahaina, so that way they can pay their homage to their chief. And we get to September 14th, 1823, and Queen Keopuolani, just off the grounds over here, she says, I want to be baptized as a Christian, I want to be buried as a Christian, and let not the old ways be done when I pass away. And the old ways for the Hawaiians would be to show bloodshed, knock out teeth, that sort of thing, just to show how much they mourned their great chief. And so she fell into a coma at that point, September 14th. The missionaries at that time was Ellis, Williams, Richards. They call over for missionary Ellis to come from Honolulu because he could speak the Hawaiian language, and they wanted the natives here to understand the proceedings that were happening. He makes his way here in 2 days, September 16th, 5 p.m., 1823. He baptizes Queen Keopuolani as a Christian. 1 hour later, she passes away. Initially, she was buried here in this area that you see behind us in the excavation spot there. That was the island of Moku'ula, the first royal capital and kingdom of Hawaii. She was initially interred there, and then she was moved later by her niece, Princess Pauahi, over to where she is today at Waine'e Royal Mausoleum. Queen Keopuolani's legacy that she leaves behind for us is that, number one, she secured the royal dynasty of the Kamehamehas to ensure that the kingdom would last. Number two, behind the scenes and with her actions, she was essential in abolishing the kapu system. And by her actions, becoming the first baptized ali'i, she brought Christianity to Hawaii. And because of that, and she forced people, not forced, just by her action of doing that, thousands followed her because of her sacredness. And because of that, Hawaii embraced Christianity to the point where Ka'ahumanu decreed that all royalty will be Christians in line with the teachings that Keopuolani had gone under. And so the legacy that made was by the mid-1800s, Hawaii became the most literate nation in the world at its day, with about 96-98% literacy. So that's the legacy of our mo'i wahine, the most sacred of all ali'i here, most sacred of all ali'i, even on Oahu at Mauna Ala at the Royal Mausoleum. And she sits quietly there at Waine'e Cemetery at the Royal Mausoleum waiting for all of us to come pay her a visit. Thank you so much for your time and allowing me to share this history with you all. Mahalo.
Oh, Paulo. Let's give it up for him. The wealth of knowledge.